Hello, my name is David. I live in Northern California, and if you haven't met me before, welcome to my channel. Appreciate it. And if you're coming back or just looking again, thank you. Appreciate it. If you can subscribe, that would be great so we can stay together. Hopefully my content will get better as I stay in it longer. So my topic today is losing your job. I mean, it's happening like crazy right now. I mean, it's just amazing the amount of government jobs that it looks like these people are going to be terminated or laid off. And then in respect to that happening, I was just listening to one about JP Morgan, and they had a call from their CEO, and it was pretty colorful, message. Somebody recorded it and then uploaded it so we could all hear it. But it basically had to do with people staying at home and really not working. At least they're working a lot less than they would if they were to come into the office. So if you lose your job, and I have lost my job over the years, lost jobs, but one of my mottos I've always thought about a job in particular is I've always thought, hey, I was looking for a job when I found this one. Because I've had companies go out of business while I was working for them. I've had just about every kind of crazy thing happen that could happen. Being my age, you're going to run into that. And so right now, it looks like there's a lot of companies that are cutting jobs for the sake of efficiency. And I think it just comes down to there's a lot of jobs where people are making 60, 70,000 a year, but they really can't show 60 or 70,000 in value. Even if you were to have 60 or 70,000 in value to the company, that's not enough. You're going to have to be more valuable than the cost of what they're spending for you. So don't be like an ostrich. They put their head in the sand, and when they can't see you, they think you can't see them. I mean, if you've seen the head of an ostrich, it's very, very small. It has a little brain, so that's exactly what they think when they stick their head in the sand. Okay, now no one can see me. Don't be that. Job loss is always a potential issue. There's no security anymore. There's really not a lot of loyalty like there used to be in the past. And I think the key is that you have to provide more value than what they're paying for, what they're paying you. If you can be in that kind of position, then that's a good place to be. So if you think you're losing your job, or you might lose your job, or even if you're not going to lose your job, I always say save money as if you lost your job. So like, just to get in your mind, oh my God, I just lost my job, and start to get into the mindset of it. Even if it means cutting back on money, that's coming to you. And, I think we all know that unemployment insurance, it maxes out like at $800 a week. So if that's what you have to set your budget to, that's what you have to set your budget to, and act as if you've lost your job. Now, if you lost your job today, what would be the first thing that you would do? Well, I'm pretty sure you would get a resume together and, start to interview. So why not get a resume together now before you've lost your job? I think most people can realize it's a lot easier to get a job when you have a job. If you don't have a job, then you're trying to tell people, explain why you don't have a job, or I was laid off. And it's not that it can't be explained, but it looks a lot better when you do have a job and you're looking, for something, better. Let's say better. I think as a person, you have to be what I like to call a job-seeking missile. Now, the thing about interviews is you can do a ton of interviews and you'll get better every time you do it. You get so good that eventually you'll get a job. So it's better to start now as a job-seeking missile. Get your resume together, start to polish it up, go over it with other people, and who knows, you might end up finding a job that might just be better than what you have. So maybe you don't have to wait for them to get rid of you. You're going to leave while you can. And then my son, he got laid off one time. He was just working for a company, and he was kind of like a data input person. And, he wasn't learning that much, actually, and he was just out of college. But I remember him coming down the stairs, and he had big watermelon tears, coming down his face. And it kind of broke my heart, But he was living at our house, so he didn't really need to have money. We have food there. We have a place to stay there for free. He doesn't have to pay rent. He doesn't have a car payment. He drove my car. So I told him, I go, this is what happens. You have to be prepared for it. That's why my motto is savings is freedom. If you have savings, then you can start, you can use some of that savings to survive. But even more importantly, you have to cut back your expenses, like immediately. And so even though you haven't lost your job now, you should be cutting back immediately. Get that job resume together. Send it out to different people. When you're talking to people, research the company before you get there. I mean, there's so many videos on how to do job interviews, and you can get better and better and better. They're always impressed whenever you're dressed, you're on time, you got your resume. And then after you're done with the interview, always send a thank you card for the interview. I think that's just a good thing to do. And it could be a contact. Before you leave, you ask, hey, can I have your card? Do you mind? And they're going to be, yeah, that's great. Nobody's ever asked me for my card. And so, I think that's a good thing to do. Now, I was in sales, and I still am in sales, actually. But I remember when I first got into sales, I saw it somewhere in a motivational tape or something, but there was a guy who was really number one at the pool sales office. He was selling pools too. His name was John. And so after one of the meetings, I said, John, would you mind if I took you to lunch and I could kind of pick your brain? Because, I have a lot of admiration for what you've done and what you're doing. He was top salesperson, also in Sunset Magazine, so he was impressive, to say the least. And so I did take him to lunch, and I started asking him, so lay it all out for me. Like, when the person calls, what do you do? When you go to their house, what do you do? When you do the presentation, what do you do? And he told me at the end of it, he was so impressed with me because I had so many good questions to ask, but I didn't know anything. And I just felt like I wanted to ask. The other thing that I did, which I think is good, maybe even in an interview, is when they're asking you questions and stuff, you might write that down. Because when you write something down, even with a customer, if I'm talking to them and they're telling me about what they want, when the act of writing it down shows that it's important. And if it's important to them, it should be important to me. So I write it down, and it's a good strategy. Now, he also told me that, he goes, I've been doing this for 30-something years, Dave. He goes, you're the first person that asked me to go to lunch, to pay for my lunch, to try to get information. He goes, I'm so impressed, and I know you're going to be good. He goes, I would like to take you on a couple of my appointments. Now, this just blew my mind, because I was like, wow. Now, he said, you're not going to be able to do everything that I do, or say things the way I say them, or ask the uncomfortable questions the way I ask them, but I would like for you to come and you could see how I do it. So I did, and it was such a learning experience. I was so blown away. My head was so expanded, by what I was learning. And the other part I really learned is to ask the hard questions and then stop talking. So when you're in a sales situation, you need to ask them for the sale, and then you need to stop talking. There's a thing in sales that whoever talks next loses, and it can be very uncomfortable. It's an uncomfortable feeling, but it is a sales technique, and it can be used in interviews too. You can tell them, express to them, I'm very, very interested in this job. I am interviewing with other people. that gives a sense of urgency. But I would really like to work for this company. I think I could learn a lot and really grow a lot here. People love to hear that. That's exactly what they love to hear. If you're talking to an interviewer, and you can look them up on LinkedIn or Facebook and learn about him, not to grill him on it, but you might, as your conversation goes, oh yeah, I did notice that you graduated from Stanford. I mean, that sounds like a very prestigious place to get to be. So you're reversing the interview, and you're asking them some questions. And so I've had some where I felt very unintimidated because I'm almost having a conversation with them. Now, in my mind, I realize, and I've even said to myself, I'm going to have to go through 50 interviews before I find a job. That's the thing. There's a lot of interviews, a lot of opportunities to have work, but I only need one job. It's not like I need a bunch of jobs. I just need one. So every time I go, I try to be as impressed with them, and then consequently, they're impressed with you. So they have to see that you care, and then they will care. But if you want to impress somebody, then you're impressed with them. Not in a kind of a shady, weird way, but there are things to be impressed about with the company, like how many employees they have, where their territory is, what their products are, what are their upcoming products. And if you talk to them about some of those things, I think that can get a real connection. And then the other thing about building rapport, you want to have a lot of me toos. So if you go into a conversation with an interviewer, and if it can go this way, you just can't bring it out of nowhere. But at some point you might say, oh, I see you have 2 kids. That's always, good. Yeah, I have both my sons. Do they still live at home, or are they grown up? Oh, no, that one of them went to Cal Poly, the other person went, So these are showing an interest in them personally, and I think it helps. And then if you totally just mess it up, and it's just about as messed up as an interview as possible, then you have to do what we do in sales, which is next. So I have messed up sales presentations. I can think of a couple of them right off the top of my head where I thought people were married, and no, that's the guy, that's the man's mother. I thought they were married because they look, pretty close in age. She had him when she was young, so it wasn't the end of the world, and I did end up selling it. I remember I had another one where the guy actually told me, this is many years ago, Dave, can you just talk to us like regular people? And I think I was getting too much in the negative part. And so I apologized, and, I gave him a little story, and I did end up signing them up too. So don't be thrown off the game, but understand that you are going to make mistakes. It's not the end of the world. There's always another interview, So I hope nobody loses their job if they don't want to lose their job. But if you lose your job, I hope maybe some of these points might be helpful to you. Thank you very much, and I appreciate your time. Have a great day.